Hey Bernie, Tim Handren, your mayor here. Today is Wednesday, April 15th. We had a city council meeting last night, April 14th. Not a very full agenda, and it was the second time we had a fully electronic meeting where we did everything via Zoom. I think we had almost 30 people sign in on the meeting last night. I have joining me this morning Jeff Thompson, the Deputy City Manager of Boerne, who's been here for a long time. So just a couple of updates from our city council meeting last night. Number one is the city council agreed to extend the current city orders to April 30th, midnight of April 30th. The way we're operating today primarily is under the governor's orders. The governor has put orders to shut down non-essential businesses and has a soft shelter in place. It's not quite as firm as what San Antonio has. And so we're operating primarily under the governor's orders. The only two things that we have in the city orders that are different are, number one, we added a travel restriction that says if you go to any spot in the world that has a hotspot of COVID-19, you should self-quarantine for 14 days when you come home. And the second thing we've added to the city orders that are above and beyond what the governor has done are that we will not shut off your utilities if you are unable to make payments for the next couple of months. Now, I've reiterated several times that doesn't give us all the right to not pay our utilities, but if we fall upon economic hard times and we need to take a little bit of a break and eat as opposed to pay our utilities, we are not going to be shutting off people's utilities during this time, and that's what we extended till April 30th. The other thing we talked about last night was really just the financial health of Boerne, and Jeff has got the finance team reports to him, and so Jeff, let's just talk a little bit about what did we cover last night regarding the financial health of Boerne.
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and hello everybody. Last night we talked about the city's financial position, and I think I led off by saying thanks to the existing city council, the current city council, and all the prior ones. They've put us in a great position not to prepare for this kind of disaster, because nobody knew something like this could even happen. But we have had floods and tornadoes and things like that in the past, so we had solid reserves going into this. Thankfully, that is still the case. Our main revenue sources are ad valorem taxes, sales taxes, and then revenue from utilities. So all of those, with maybe the exception of revenue from utilities, which we can gauge how much we might lose from the fact that we're not charging penalties for being late or extending people, we can do some clear estimates on that. Everything else right now is very much up in the air. What will be the ad valorem tax impact? What's going to be the sales tax impact? We know they're coming, but they're very hard to gauge. So at this point, what we did for the council was the finance team and I, we tried to at least provide some initial estimate of hopefully worst case scenario impacts on revenue, and we did that, and we also looked at ways we could start to mitigate that immediately. So before those revenue impacts even happen, we have already put in place over $1 million worth of freezes on projects, on rehires, on open positions. Anything that's not bolted down, we're not spending it right now. If it's not already committed contractually, we're not doing it. So, and the last part is we've begun to organize a team here at the city that's doing research to help us, A, be in position for any federal grant money that might be coming for smaller cities, because none exists yet. And then B, how can we as a city help the community be best poised for when the recovery starts to happen? What can we do to facilitate that and come back strong as quickly as we can?
How can we as a city government help the businesses recover? And how do we help the community recover?
In the meantime, that's correct. We did mention that we had determined in our research that we had about $200,000 worth of economic development funding that could be rededicated from what it was originally purposed for. That we're not doing any development agreements right now. And our primary goal is, as the Boerne-Kendall County EDC has said, our primary goal as economic development efforts here at the city is business retention, helping folks to make it through, some kind of a bridge to help you to get to an SBA loan, or as we start to come out of this, how can we help to facilitate that and perhaps have some funding for it, and that'll be the council's call as to how that goes. So.
Great, right. So the bottom line is we're not in unsteady financial position as a city, and thanks to, like Jeff said, thanks to all the prior councils and the hard work of the city staff over the last several decades to be in a position like we are in today. So those are the two big topics that we covered last night. I just want to add one more thing. It's more of a follow-on to yesterday's conversation. Spent a lot of time talking about masks and the CDC guideline that you should wear a mask if you're out in public and you can't maintain social distancing. I still see online there's questions, confusion about that, and even the idea of having mandatory masks in Boerne is being questioned by some. And that's okay. I just want to assure people that when I look at options like providing orders to say we should have mandatory masks when we're in public areas, that's not a cavalier statement that I'm making as a guy that thinks he's a powerful politician. In fact, that's the last thing I'm worried about right now is politics. What I worry about is our community. And I consult with several doctors as I look at the impact of the decisions and the kinds of decisions we have to make. And the local health authority for Kendall County is Dr. Ken Stiskel. You might remember he was on some videos a couple weeks with me. And I check in with him pretty regularly. And, his guidance is that we ought to go to mandatory masks very quickly. I am waiting just a little bit longer because I'm not anxious to move to that. If we can demonstrate as a community that we are following the CDC guidelines, we wear masks when we're in a public place, and we can't maintain social distancing. Remember, the mask is not to prevent us from getting sick. The mask is to prevent us from spreading it in case we are carrying it. If everybody had a mask on and somebody sneezed, they would sneeze in their mask, and they would not be sneezing out in the open, and it wouldn't be spread to everybody else. So the idea that we are really preventing spread if we wear a mask, that's the whole concept. I would just encourage you, go to the CDC website. It is a recommendation right now. It isn't mandatory. And those guidelines are put together by health professionals, not politicians. And that's why we want to follow them. And that's why I can continue to encourage everyone in the community to get familiar with those CDC guidelines and follow them to the best of your ability, especially when you go in public right now. We had 2 more cases confirmed last night. We're up to 14 in Kendall County. The 2 that were confirmed was a travel-related person who came home and got the person they live with ill as well. So we're up to 14 in Kendall County, and that is 6 active, Chris, because we've had 8 recovered. Again, when people look at the numbers, those are not absolutely huge numbers. I get that. I also understand the economic toll this is taking on businesses that are not able to have their own revenues, much like we talked about with the city. But we have to get through this together, and we have to get through this strong together. So again, let's be Boerne strong, stay positive, and we'll give you another update in the next couple of days. Thanks, Boerne.